Hey guys, welcome back to RLS Scenario.
Boom.
Shout out to all our real lovers. Welcome back.
Hi, y'all.
Welcome back to our new real lover, our old real lovers. Not old, our just the gang. Welcome back to the gang.
Yes.
And then welcome to all of our new real lovers who are watching right now. If you want to be a part of the gang, which you do.
You do. You should.
You should. You
it's
just
lit here.
You just got to have your initiation. So you just got to like, subscribe, leave a review, follow us on the podcast app, share it with your friends.
Little this, little that, little housework.
It's all free.
It's all free and all very
anything.
Fast. It's actually cheaper than the housework.
It is, actually.
It's very easy to do. So we hope that you will do it, that you will feel motivated to do it. And we're so happy that you chose to kick it with us.
Yeah,
kick it with us.
For sure. Rhonda, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Weather's starting to turn, so it's starting to get a little warm.
Yes.
Take some walks, wear short sleeves.
I came here with no coat today.
Oh.
That felt, I mean, my sweater is pretty thick, but it felt very nice.
It did.
It felt very nice.
I'm just hoping they don't try to go back at any point.
I think we're hitting the stride. It's late. It's mid-March, so we're there. The winter is pretty much behind us.
By the time I get back, I'm going to end of March. I'm going to LA, and then I'm going to New Orleans. So when I get back, it's going to be April.
We should be smooth
so
sailing.
I need to be good. From there.
Rain.
65 and on at least.
Yeah,
it'll
be a lot of rain.
Back in the 50s, 40s.
No, but the temperatures will be up. I'll take a warm rain over a cold rain any day.
Yeah.
So Mother Nature, God, Jesus, hold us down.
Please.
We're done with winter. Thank you.
Until next time.
Yes.
I hope that you guys have been checking out our guest episode, and we're just excited because we have a lot of guest episodes coming up.
Yes.
And just to expand the conversation, so I got a lot of you guys know the show with just me and Rhonda, but we're going to start adding other people to the conversation.
Yes.
Some experts, some doctors, some just people living their regular lives who've had some unique experiences. So I'm excited to just share that and for you guys to listen to those conversations because I think it's going to be really impactful.
It is. It's going to be really great. I'm very excited to talk to all of them, but they're just some particular stories and experts that are going to be on here where I'm like, I've been waiting to be able to ask you these types of questions. So I'm looking forward to it for my own learning and also for you to learn at home as well. Yeah.
And I think it's going to go to Real Lover Gang. So speaking of the Real Lover Gang, we have a new review. This is a comment that was on YouTube and I saw it and I was like, I have to read it. It's from CC Moore 3306. Welcome, CC.
Hey, CC.
Welcome to the Real Lover Gang. You did. See, this is what you got to do. You got to comment.
That's it.
I'm sure she subscribed.
I'm sure
she liked. You know what I'm saying?
Based on what she said, I think so.
Exactly. She said, I'm so happy I found this podcast. This is the first relationship podcast that features both the man and woman perspectives that come from a place of healing versus what will go viral.
That part.
That's the show.
She got us in a nutshell.
That's all it is.
Just like that. Just like that.
Oh, man, you captured us perfectly. That's exactly why we did this show. It was to have healthy conversations about relationships, given the woman and the man perspective on love. So I'm glad that you understood that and that came across. That made us feel good. And welcome.
Yes, CC. Stay a while. Tell all your friends about it. And I also want to give a shout out to someone. I met a young lady yesterday named Kai who listens to the show. Again, shout out to Mayor Scott. Had a wonderful time doing the event. But she came up to me and she said, I love Real Love Scenario. You guys give me hope. I engaged with the Instagram page. She was like, are you the person that does the social media? Because I definitely left a comment at 5 a.m. So shout out to Alexia, who I'm sure got that alert and not me. But she loves the show. And she said we give her hope to keep believing in love. So
awesome.
I love that. I love that. So hey, Kai girl.
Real lovers.
I'm so glad you came up to me. We got to hug and chat a little bit. So it was good. It was really good.
Like you said, we got to get a sign and a call. I don't know. Something we got. We're working on it.
Yeah, we'll get something that doesn't sound like a bird. Let's figure out something that doesn't sound like a bird. I don't know. I have no clue.
We'll figure that out. You want to hop into our real life love scenario?
I would love to, because this is a good one and it's been quite popular and it's very fitting for you and I. On a new episode of their podcast, Too Personal, the sports journalist Joy Taylor and
Taylor Rooks.
Taylor Rooks, yes. They agreed that they would not want to date a guy who does not have friends who are women. I don't want to date a man who only gets input from other men and who has all women in 2 categories, your mother or your aunties, or someone you want to sleep with, says Joy Taylor. You have to have a broader spectrum on women and their value in your life if you are going to be with me. And so, naturally, I agree with her. But I want to just kind of get into this because Dre, if you're not new here, you all know that Dre has several female friends. And I feel like you're a great guy to kind of talk about this as to, one, why you do, why it's important to you, and maybe just even sharing like things that you've learned from your female friends over the years.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know if it's like how your upbringing impacts it, but I think sometimes you have people that are just drawn to one sex versus the other. Like you meet girls sometimes who are like guys, girls. They may not get along as well with women, but they get along very well with guys. And it's not even a sexual thing. It's just personality types.
Yeah.
I always found myself like just being able to connect with women and I'm having a lot of friendships. And maybe it's because I like to discuss relationships and like I like to have really in-depth conversations and figure things out. But yes, I do have a lot of friends who are women, and none of my friends that I've ever slept with, kissed, nothing romantic. So it's like really genuine friendships. And this is even before Bree. So it's like if I wanted to, we could have, and it wouldn't have been a thing. Thing I value about those relationships is just the perspective. Like if you're sharing something and you got something going on, you ask a dude, man, that's crazy. Damn. So what you gonna do? That's wild. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like that's crazy. Like, and that's what you get sometimes.
That's about
like,
the extent
that's
of
about
it.
the extent of it. But you know, if you're talking to one of your friends who is a woman, they'll ask questions, engage, like this is probably
Deep
what she's
dive,
thinking,
explore.
like explore, like and really like are genuinely trying to help you out and figure out, you know, the problems and issues and stuff like that. And I value that. And I think that friendships, you have friends that we talked about this a previous episode, that friends you just put in different categories and you can have for different things and rely on for different things. And I think when you have a more diverse circle of people, that makes you a more well-rounded person because you get more perspectives of life. You get to understand what people are thinking from a different way of living and a different way of viewing life. So yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial, and I value those friendships because of that.
Yeah, I would say same, like ditto. Clearly this is about men having female relationships, but I would assume that Joy and Taylor have male friends for the same exact reasons, that like there's just a different perspective that you can get. And I think contrary to what you may experience as a guy, when you ask a guy a question, like it's just you guys are talking and that it's that damn wow. When I ask my male friends a question, I get a different experience.
Exactly.
They do expound more. They do explore more. Or the word, it may not be as lengthy, but their reaction, even if it's short or brief, is a perspective that I can appreciate. Like I've asked some of my guy friends something like, do you think that this means this with the guy? And then they're like, nah, that's not what that means. It means this. That's it. Like, it's like, wow. You know, if I talk to my girlfriends, they would have completely like turned that into a thought stew and like, well, if you really want to look further into it, where a guy's like, nah, he don't like you.
Or the guy would tell you like, you tripping.
Yeah.
To where your girlfriend might be like, because she's been in that situation too, be like, well, I think he still should have, and I get why you, but it's so funny too, now that I think about it, as you were saying that, it may just be the topics too, because if I talk to any of my guy friends about like investing or like business or something like that, then it may be a more lengthy conversation. Oh, you should do this, or you should look at that, or you should try this. But the relationship thing is a little different. And then it's just like, I don't know. It's just when you have that relationship, I think everybody needs that balance.
Yes.
Because like I said, it's just all about the perspective. And those relationships are different. I think sometimes we value that thing that the other sex typically can give us in a friendship that we're not getting with the same gender, essentially. So sometimes with men, the conversation is more surface level, is more about around activities or things like that, but doesn't go as deep. And sometimes as a woman, you don't want to always go like super deep into things. Sometimes when you have a conversation, you just want to
get straight to it.
Just straight to it, or just like have a surface level conversation that's just fun. No real meaning to it, nothing deep about it. And then sometimes a man, you have those conversations all the time, sports, all this stuff, nothing. And then you want to have a deep conversation sometimes. And you can have that with men. I'm not saying you can't, but a lot of times with women, they're naturally in their friendships having these conversations often. So it's a lot easier to explore that with them.
Yeah. Now here's the other side, because I've seen lots of people talk about this.
Okay.
One, there are some women that are like, absolutely not. I would not want my man to have female friends. But then I saw, I think it was Armand Wiggins who said it on TGIF. He said that this only works when the women don't look like Joy Taylor and Taylor Rooks. Like, women can be okay with women, their man having a female friend if it's not someone that's beautiful or someone that he would date. And I know for you, that is not the case, because again, if you're not new here, you know, we talked about the leash, if you will, being far and long or whatever in your marriage, where Bree is, from the outside looking in, very secure, where it's like, my man has beautiful friends, beautiful female friends that if I were not in the picture, he could potentially be attracted to them and could possibly date them if we weren't together. So I'm curious to know, like, I feel like it's hard for you to answer it, because
I think I can answer it.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
I think there's some truth to what he's saying for sure.
Okay.
Because I've heard girls say like, oh, that would bother me. Why? Because she's really pretty. Like, that would bother them. And I mean, I appreciate the honesty in that feeling and knowing like, yeah, that's the reason for the most part. But I definitely think that's true. And it's not only just you too, right? It's like your person, but then your person's friends, right? It's like, I've seen it in a situation where the person is fine, but then the friends are like, what's up with that? Like, and they start to put something in her head, right? Or that person's head that wasn't even in that person's head before. Because the friends are looking at it like, I don't know, if I was you, I would watch that one or something like that. And it's hard for people to, because I dealt with this because I have attractive friends. It's hard for people to grasp sometimes that two good-looking people are just friends.
Yes, it is very hard for people to grasp.
Like, they don't get it. They're like,
it's almost impossible for right.
Yeah, not once.
Yep, didn't think about it. Like,
so you don't think she's attractive? Nah, she's straight. You don't think he looks good. But y'all still like, I don't believe it.
Don't believe it.
No way. No way. So I've come across that. Like, one of my friends, I don't think not one of her dudes like me. Not one.
And you think it was just because of your looks?
Only.
Yeah. Because
not one.
Yeah.
And we have like a really relationship. It's almost like a brother-sister relationship. And that relationship can sometimes come off as playful. Right? Like, you know, just you playfully just, you know, taking jabs. A lot of times it's making fun of each other all the time. Like, but yeah, none of her friends, none of her dudes always had that, like, and I'm just sitting here like, yo, especially the latest one, I'm like, I'm married, bro. Like,
and I think it's just really because we have so many examples, unfortunately, that are not that, like, when you just said I'm married, I'm like, so for you, Dre Smith, yes, that means something. For so many others that we've seen, and you're not one of one, but for so many people, that does not mean anything. Like, married people cheat and sleep with their friends and act like they're just homies. So I think that is a part of the problem, that people have seen or experienced it firsthand or, you know, secondhand. And they're just like, I don't trust it. I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel like I'm half and half. I'm 50-50. Like, I would want my man to have female friends all day. I think that that's cool for the same reasons they think it's cool, for the same benefits that I've experienced by being a woman who has male friends. But yes, that little feeling has come into my head when I see the female friend and she is attractive. It's like, I don't want to say out of my mouth, like, your female friends have to be unattractive. That sounds insane. But I also am mature enough to know that it does not matter what they look like. Honestly, if he wants to sleep with them or they want to sleep together, doesn't matter if I think she's attractive. That can still happen even with someone that's not necessarily his type.
I mean, I think like you said, it's a natural feeling.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says. I'm a very secure person. My wife is a very secure person. But if you see certain stuff, it's what they say. It calls for alarm. Put the antennas up.
Yes, like, it's gonna make me be like,
if Bree was like, "Hey, I'm going to hang out with even if it was an old ex from high school, right?" Mm-hmm. And it was like the small, like, I don't know, Asian dude that she used to talk to back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know, it might be like, go ahead, like, oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But if it was like this big 6'4", like black bearded dude, I'd be like, all right,
hit the gym every day.
What he want? Why he want to?
What he want?
What you want?
What you want from over here?
Well, I mean, y'all can catch up over the phone, you know, on speaker. You know, it's fine.
It's the on speaker mumbled on speaker. You know, nothing too crazy. Make sure you talk to him when I'm in the room. Okay.
Nah, I'm joking, but like, you know, it's just I wouldn't care anyway because I trust my person. But
and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, it would. I mean, there are things that are like, okay, you know. You'll look and they initially have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I could imagine for a woman, it's like you see a girl, you like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my eye on that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna keep my eye on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can get that.
More than anything, I just want the behaviors to be appropriate. Like if I see you all interacting, I just want to make sure that you are being mindful and she is being mindful that like there's a relationship here, and sometimes that requires you to make adjustments. Like I've talked about that. I think I talked about that in one of our very first episodes, that how I might function with my guy friends when we're both single. It might be playfulness, like you said, that we do when we're both single, that would totally be okay. But once you're in a relationship, it's jokes that I'm not going to make. It's requests that I might not even make. Like I might call my good guy friend at 2:00 in the morning if I'm stranded somewhere and I need my tire changed. I might think more about that if he's now in a relationship and he lives with his girlfriend, because not because there's anything wrong, but because she could interpret that like you're calling my man to get him out of the bed at 2:00 in the morning. Now he's still my friend. So if ultimately at the end of the day, I really don't have anybody else, I'm going to still do that and just apologize profusely. But I would think more about it this time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put any woman in a position to feel like, is this really just your friend? Why is she relying on you so very much? Even if that was the dynamic before she came into the picture, I'm always going to be very, very thoughtful about that because I want to maintain my friendship and I want to make sure that not only does she trust him, that she trusts me too, that I would never do that.
That's so important. It's basically talking about the way that you operate in a relationship. And I think that that's important for people to understand, because just because something is how it's supposed to be doesn't mean that you need to test the limits of it.
There you go.
So just because it says a chair can hold 200 pounds, that don't mean you put 200 pounds on it or 215 and just I'm gonna keep trying to see if it could hold this, if it could hold this, if it could hold this. And it's like at some point it might break because you're pushing it every single day when you don't necessarily have to, right? So in these situations, I think that's what you're saying is like, yeah, your person should trust you, but do you have to put that to the test?
Test the trust
every single time you're interacting with this friend. Even in the conversations, it's like I have an old friend who's a female or a woman. You know, I don't try to, if it's my wife and that friend, I'm not trying to have conversations that kind of ostracize my wife from the conversation.
Yeah.
Because obviously we have a longer friendship that goes decades prior to my wife, but every conversation I'm gonna be like, remember that time we was on that trip? Remember that time we did this? Remember that time? And she go back, yeah, remember that from back then?
Your
yeah.
wife sitting
and
there
like,
well,
okay,
should I could go.
Y'all want me to leave?
I could just go.
Yeah, that's testing it. And she should trust you, yeah. And she probably is trusting you, but that just is putting it to the test. And if you do that too much, one day she gonna come to you like, listen, I don't know. Something
seems
off.
Yeah.
And you don't want to test that. So it's just about being mindful when you're having those friendships that it's okay to have them.
Yeah.
But also understanding the boundaries and the respect of your partner. And I think if you play that balance well, then everything will be good. Your partner will have no issue. And then a lot of times in those situations, if it's done right, in my opinion, you all become friends just in general.
Everyone becomes friends.
Yeah, everyone just becomes friends.
Agreed. All right, well, let's jump into our real love scenario. This week we hear from Finsta Fiasco, and she says, I've been with my husband for 8 years and recently discovered that my husband has been maintaining a secret and anonymous Instagram account for 7 years that he uses to follow and interact with women. He comments on how beautiful they are and sometimes comments on their body. I confronted him about the page and he looked me in my face and lied until he couldn't lie anymore. When I asked him why he did this, his response was that I should have never looked for it, and it was a him thing that he enjoys. He never truly said he was wrong, but he apologized and erased the page. I feel so blindsided, and I'm having a hard time getting over this because not only did it break my trust, I'm now unsure what else he's lied about. I've known him my entire life and he's always been a stand-up man. I never had a reason to look at his phone because he's always treated me like a queen and takes care of all of his responsibilities. Nevertheless, although he is a great man, I feel like this should not have been hidden from me and I don't know what to do from here. Thank you, Finsta Fiasco.
Thank you for sharing. Oh man, it's
interesting.
It's very interesting. I don't think we've had one like this before.
We've had nothing like, I think, even close to this before.
Where you want to start?
Man, I mean, I think we have to just start with the obvious.
Okay.
Social media. Boy, social media is doing a number on us.
It is.
In so many ways. And I know that it has a massive impact on relationships today. From how much do you share of your relationship? This type of stuff, like, should your person be interacting with people online that they think are attractive? To, do you turn your relationship into a brand on social media and use it as a money-making opportunity? I mean, social media is like running most of our lives today. So I just really do want to focus on the impact that it's having on relationships, because if it weren't for social media, this scenario wouldn't even be a thing. So in your opinion, why do you think social media has such an impact on relationships? Like, why is this such a big deal?
I think it's multifaceted, and it's depending on where you are in your relationships, it can serve multiple purposes. I think one of the main purposes is, well, let me say this. We were just talking about cars down in the lobby, right? And let's say I was like, Rhonda, you need to get this new car. It's a new Benz. They just came out with it. It's a S5 760. Like, you got to check it out. I think it's in your price range. I think you would love it. If I'm telling you all this, what would be the first thing that you would do if you were interested in that car?
I would go look it up.
Exactly, right? So when we are interested in something, we try to screen as much as we possibly can to get a better understanding of that thing before we purchase it. And I think that one of the reasons that people use social media and love social media and show up on social media the way they do is because now it very much is used as like your resume or your screening for who you are as an individual. So when somebody is like, oh, I got a friend who I think would be perfect for you, can you send me their Instagram? So I can kind of look and see who they are, what they look like, maybe what their job is, you know, what they're into. Like, I can start to screen them a little bit to get a better idea for who they are, to know if I want to move forward. So that's one of the reasons that I feel like in dating relationships, it's like really important, because that's like now the thing. People don't come up. I mean, some people do, still ask for numbers. But
Yeah.
that was the thing before. It's like you meet somebody, like,
Now
let
it's
me get their number.
what's your IG?
Yeah, what's your IG? Like, we can connect on there. I want to know a little bit about what you do, who you are. And then that could influence people. They see you got 2,000 followers versus like 50,000. They like, oh, 50,000. Like, what do you do?
What
Oh, this
you
person
do? What's
popping a
up
little
with
bit.
you?
Like what's going on? So that's one thing. Another where it's important, or where it's, I guess, influential when it comes to dating relationships, is discoverability. Like, I think we've talked about it before, that back in the day, if you was bad, you was the baddest chick on the block, or the baddest chick in your high school, or the baddest chick in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But now it's like you have access to so many other people and so many other things. So once you put your profile out there, you got people from LA hitting you up. You got people from Texas hitting you up. You got people from New York hitting you up.
Yep.
Now, I have heard and seen relationships that have successfully came from that exposure on social media. Like, they meet somebody in a different state. It's like, oh, I like you, boom. Or even in the same state, who you wouldn't have came across in person, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't even know you live here. And they meet on social media. So it is beneficial to meet people. But then it also, on the flip side, can contribute to people not settling down, because they have so many options and so many opportunities to be courted by different people, or be, or to date so many different people. So that, in the dating phase, I think are the two most crucial things. And I think in a relationship phase, it's a stamp of validity to the relationship. Because the original reason that social media was existed, if you look at their community guidelines, was basically community. It wasn't business. It wasn't to market. It was to share things with your friends. That's what Facebook was about. That's what Instagram was about. That's where all these things were started. LinkedIn was designed for business.
Yeah.
That's probably the only social media that was specifically designed for business. Everything else was community. So you sharing to the world, hey, this is my person, I'm in a relationship now, that means something. It's like, bring them over to Thanksgiving, essentially. You're virtually doing that on social media. So I think in relationships, it plays a part in that too. So that's my little breakdown on dating versus relationships.
I mean, it's not a thing to even agree or disagree with, but I very much agree with what you're saying, that it is that, like what Amanda called on her first time she appeared here, her IG forensics, where you go and do that research. It's like, it's your online portfolio. It's a quick, from a visual to, if you do write or share things on there, I can kind of potentially get a sense of like things that you like, your hobbies, interests, maybe how you align politically, if you're into sports, if you have kids, if you're a family guy, or if you got a lot of friends or you don't. It can usually showcase all of those things. And so instead of having to talk to you, I can go and get at least I think I could get a quick snapshot of who you are. And then, of course, in a relationship, it is very much a coming out, if you will. It's an announcement that we're in a relationship. And I think neither of those sides of it are necessarily bad. They can be, because I know for me, I have a very deep love-hate relationship for social media. It's a very complicated relationship, because I do see the values and the positives of it. There are many things in my life today that I would not have had without it. And so I have appreciation for that, for just even when you think about the podcast, like we get to talk to and engage with and reach so many people because of the vehicles of social media. And I'm so grateful for that. But from a dating perspective, I've also met cool people through social media, and they are responsible for making certain connections, some that I wish I never made before, and others that it's like, okay, it's cool that happened. But I do not like it replacing phone numbers. I'm just not a fan of that. I know people feel like it's safer, but to me, not. You could just kind of do all of the same things. Like nowadays, it's so easy to block people's phone numbers. While some people may not want to change their phone number, just as much as I don't want to change my phone number, I don't want to change my Instagram page either. So if I give you access to me,
new pages,
they can keep coming back. You know what I mean? It's no different than with a phone number. They can get a new phone number, or they can block their number and call me. But I just don't like how much social media has like replaced the original forms of communication. And it's because I'm of an age where I remember the original forms. And so that's just likely an old, antiquated way of thinking, but it's one of the ways I want to hold on to.
I was just thinking about that. I think about that a lot, but I was thinking about that again on my drive here. And just technology in general has shifted things, I think, in a positive way. Like, I don't think we sit here today being able to do what we do without the evolution of technology and social media, right?
Not.
Like, even the guests that we have, some of those relationships were built because they saw our content via social media and became fans of our content and came on the show because of that. And that has helped our show grow. It's helped us reach new audiences. So I'm very grateful for that. But I also miss when, I won't say it was a lot harder to do stuff like this, but there was less things that were coming out all the time, right? So the conversations that used to have were centralized around the same things. You remember, like, there were only like 8 movies that came out at a time. There wasn't streaming. There wasn't anything. You had to go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video to actually get a movie. So those 8 movies that came out, everybody was talking about those movies. So the conversation, you could have conversation about that. Or like the albums. It's like that person just dropped that album. Everybody went to buy it. So you could have conversations with so many people about that album. Right? And it wasn't like really people like, I didn't hear that. I didn't know that even dropped. It was like everybody knew because the conversations were so like centralized because there wasn't a ton to talk about. Like I think about movies like that didn't necessarily have big theater releases, like White Chicks or like something like Malibu's Most Wanted. Like everybody I grew up with saw those movies because it was like it wasn't that much to see. But now I feel like that would be buried in Paramount Plus or like this or that. And it's just so many things. It's just a lot to like consume. So and I think that breaks up the conversations that we can have around certain things because it's just so much. And then now we can choose what things fit our narratives in order to consume. And I understand the benefit of it, but I also miss, like you said, that connection, that community around certain things, or like having to come in person to do things and watch things. And that's our little rant on that.
In a nutshell, what you're talking about is just distractions. Like it's nice that you can have things so readily available to you or curate things for your mindset, but for me, it all just feels like an extreme amount of distractions, like even down to the number of streaming sites that we have. Plus, we still have cable. We have so many DSPs. Like, it's not just Apple anymore. It's Spotify. It's Tidal. It's SoundCloud. It's just everything is on steroids. And I think social media is the same way, even within an app. Now it's not just photos. It's also videos, which is not exactly reels. Then you have like, you can just post words and not like a picture of words, but not a picture of a picture. And you can go captionless or captions, and you can post to your stories, but then you could also put it in highlights. And I'm only just talking about Instagram. We ain't even gone to the things that you could do on Facebook or the things you can now do on Twitter, which is actually X. It is like, holy shit, I feel overwhelmed. And that is my hate for social media. You get on there and it's just like, oh God. And this is in addition to your life already having multiple layers to it.
Yeah, I'm adjusting now, honestly. Like one thing I've done, because I had to be on Instagram for everything that we're doing, but one thing is I have multiple pages on my iPhone. So now I put my Instagram in the last page in another folder. So it's not like every time I open my phone, it's there. Because, you'll mentally get into that habit of like, you'll go to your phone to check an email or to just respond to a text message, and then you'll hit that app, and then you'll start going through, start looking at stories. And then like 10 minutes later, you're like,
why was I even here?
What was I even doing here? And now I'm just like, I'm really staying off the app. Like, I'm going on to post my stuff. I turn all my notifications off, so I don't get no notifications to my phone. I post my stuff, and then I let it go because, like you said, I wake up sometimes, and as I'm just starting to scroll, things that would never have been on my mind or in my head are now there now.
It's awful. It's awful. And so I think when you think about that, and we aren't even talking about how it shows up in relationships yet.
Yeah.
This is just
every day.
individual day-to-day experience. So I thought it was so interesting. I found this, I think it was cited in an article from WFLA. They said that according to the Pew Research Center, 40% of partnered adults say that they are bothered by the amount of time their partner spends on their phone. As social media sites update, they become more interactive and more addicting, making it difficult to manage the time spent on it. In fact, according to this study cited by Psych Central, American college students describe abstaining from social media the same way they describe abstaining from drugs and alcohol, and it causes withdrawals like cravings, anxiety, and feeling jittery. We have a problem. So when you're in a relationship, and this is a thing where like connectivity is so crucial, it's like you're also in a relationship with social media. Like that is a thing. And that is when you're not even doing anything like inappropriate, like having a Finsta page and liking people. It's just the constant consumption of it all. And so I know for me, when I meet someone and they say they don't have it, or they do, but they barely use it and it shows, I am like, yes, like that is so attractive to me. Yes, like for sure. Like especially if they just use it for just pleasure, you know, like they don't use it as a vehicle for business. I like that. I do. I in fact really like it when you just don't have any, like none whatsoever, mainly because I understand even for myself personally how distracting it is to my own life. And so when a guy does not have that distraction, it's not because I think that makes him like somehow less of a potential cheater or anything like that.
That's secure of you.
No,
it's some people look like, oh, he up to something. He ain't trying to be tracked down.
No, I just like it that he doesn't have that distraction, because for most of us, it is a massive distraction in our lives. Even those of us who use it as a business tool, now you're not paying a third party to run a website for you. You might be doing that too. But you are now your own web designer. You are now your own marketing team. You are now your own social media manager. You're now having to do all of those things. And so naturally, all of those tasks distract you from doing other things. So when a person doesn't have that, they're not worrying about posting how their cute outfit from the other day. They're not worrying about putting up a post to promote their business. That's just not a part of their lives. To me, that just means you have more time. That's just not a distraction for you. So cool. You might have another one, but that one is so addictive and so easy to do. Like you said, that muscle memory in your hand when you just open your phone and your thumb just drags you into IG. When you don't have that, I'm like, I love it. It's not because I think he's, I don't naturally jump to the fact that he's like being secretive. I just think he doesn't have a true interest for it. One of my buddies, Derek, he does not have social media. He's a loving, faithful husband and dad. He has no interest in being online swiping all day. It's just, for him, it's weird. It's like, I don't need to do that. I also don't need to post how I look. I just don't care about that.
Yeah.
Don't need to do that. I tell my wife I love her to her face. I spend time with my kids. I don't need to show it to anybody. I don't have a business that I'm trying to promote on there. So I don't need it. And I'm like, I like that. It's rare to find people like that today. Very rare. But I do think that it's very attractive.
Got you. No, it's very secure of you. Like I know a lot of dudes who don't have it, and the reason that they don't is because they don't want to be
caught up.
Yeah. Tracked down, and they out there doing their thing.
I mean, if that's your reason, then that's problematic. But I like it that you don't feel a need for it if you don't really have a need for it.
Yeah, I think my ex-girlfriend in college wasn't active on social media at all. Like she had a profile, but like nothing really up there. So I don't think it bothered me in that way. If you didn't have it, I would ask like why, like what would be the reason behind it. I would definitely question it. But if the reason made sense, and I'd be like, cool. If you don't need it for business, if you just like I said, nothing about it is appealing to you, and I feel like what you're saying is genuine, then it'll be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But there's also the option of having like, your page be completely private. Like a lot of times people have their issues with social media, but you can set up your social media to only feature the things that you want on it. So it's just your family, your friends, your siblings, stuff like that. You have the ability to do that. You have the page to restrict who sees your page and follow you. So it can still be, an intimate thing if you curate it to be that way, to where it could be like a less negative part of things.
Yeah.
But the issue is that you also can't be a person who like has like fear of missing out, because you're gonna be out of the loop with so many things, because people are gonna be like, oh, did you see this? Oh, did you see this? Or you know this? You know this? Oh, I'm gonna send you the link, and then you can't open the link because you ain't got the app and you don't know what they talking about. So
Yeah.
as long as you're not a person who has that fear of missing out on stuff, then I think it could work for you.
Yeah, and I this is again goes into that hate pocket for me, because I'm like, well, then good. You know what I mean? Like, the problem is that we do know too much. We are too involved. Like, if I don't know, that's cool. If you still want to talk to me about it, that just means you got to tell me what you're talking about. Like, you have to start from the beginning, because I didn't see it myself. But I think that is actually a massive problem. We do know too much, and then it has now created an expectation that we should know more about people just from going on social media, especially like when you think about it with celebrities, you know, like how Halle Bailey recently talked about, like, you know, she wasn't going to share that she was pregnant, which I kind of thought that was a bit of like a, girl, we all knew that you were pregnant, because you were outside and dressing in such a way that showed that you were pregnant, because you changed your wardrobe.
Yeah.
How you would normally dress is not how you were dressing. So it was very clear that you had a growing belly. But I respect the fact that she did not want to say out loud, like, I am pregnant. She has the right to do that. But the fact that so many people were like, you should just tell us. You should just tell us. It's like, but why? Like, what is her being pregnant gonna do for you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get that. Or we feel like, why doesn't, you know, another thing with a celebrity with Beyonce's son, like when her movie came out recently, it's like, why isn't she showing her son more? Is something wrong? Why aren't we seeing?
Tyler Perry did that too with his.
You've never seen Tyler Perry's son. You've never seen his face. Same thing with Kerry Washington and her husband. There might be one photo that exists of those children. It's like, why do we think that they should? Like, it's because we've created an expectation that we are entitled to what's going on in every part of everyone's lives. And I blame social media for that, because it's been the vehicle. There have always been media outlets that have been very in trying to be involved in people's lives. That's been a thing as long as I've been alive. But the way that we do it now, it's like on steroids.
Yeah, the access is ridiculous. It makes you think. Like, I know there are people who were alive, but even I was alive during this time, but it makes you think like, dang, when there wasn't phones and social media and like streaming and stuff like that, like, what did people do? Yeah. Like, you get off of work and do what? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it makes you think of those times, like, because I wasn't an adult during that time. Like, when I was a kid, there was still television and stuff. But like, when those things weren't a thing, what did people do when they got off of work? They probably interacted. The entertainment was being with other people.
Yeah, or you would get off and you would, if an album came out, a part of getting that album was going to the store to actually get it.
Pick it out.
And shop for it. Yes. And then if you drove there, clearly you get in the car, you put the CD on in the car, you might actually take longer rides because you want to enjoy it inside of the car. Or you pop it out, you go in your house. It's like even down to how many more fast food restaurants we have in comparison to what we had 20 years ago. How many parks and recreation centers are closing or not being used because people just stay in their corners and huddles in their houses and are on social media all day long? How many more kids are using technology as a form of fun and entertainment versus like going outside and playing? There's so many days where I ride past a playground and there's no one there. And it's like a nice day where you would normally see families out there engaging with that. But the kids nowadays more so just want to be behind a video game or on a tablet. And so it is just having such a weird impact on our ability to continue. It's supposed to be for community and connectivity, but it's only allowing us to do that in a digital way, even down to how we communicate. Me and my girlfriend Sade were talking this morning, like, I believe that social media is, unfortunately, and I'm going to say y'all because it's not me, it's making us less intelligent, because it's like we don't even use our words enough, like use them out of our mouths enough, because we're just using it through digital communication, where then when you get on the phone with someone, it's like it it's like do do do. Remember that in on Martin when it was like Cole was like, the thought is not available at this time. That's what it feels like.
I think now that I think about it, it's probably more of an advantage from a business perspective and less of an advantage from a social perspective.
Agreed.
Because, and we're not going to have this whole episode be about social media, our gripes with it. But when I look at it, I think like, oh, wow, there was a time to where there were truly gatekeepers when it came to certain businesses or certain fields or certain industries. And social media has allowed people to create their own method of entertainment or, you know, giving their audience something that they wouldn't have had before, that they would have to go through this one place to do it. And if they didn't meet the requirements or do the dance that needed to be done, they wouldn't have had the opportunity. So I feel that it's advantageous from that standpoint. But like we're talking about socially, it does definitely hurt us from the sense of just connecting with others, conversation with others, being around others. So hopefully, you know, we'll find a balance. Maybe TikTok will be gone by the time you see this episode. Who knows? But hopefully we'll find.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that because it's impacted some people professionally. I'm sorry.
Hopefully we'll find a balance and we'll figure out ways to have community and, you know, be around each other and enjoy each other actually in person.
And I think the point, you know, connecting it to clearly the scenario as to why this feels like such a betrayal to her is because social media is a mountain in our lives today.
Yes.
So many people will be dismissive, like, oh, it's just Instagram. Like, why do you care? No, because social media is a massive part of what we do today. And so when you find that your partner is participating in certain things online, it does feel very real. It does feel very substantial. It feels like actual human to human interaction, because in many ways it is. I've always thought that Finstas were, or fake Instagrams, that's what that stands for, were very interesting.
Burners.
Yeah, like because to me they're never rooted in anything good. Like fake Instagram pages are not really, to me, designed for anything upstanding, because why would you really need a fake IG page? Like for what? Like what are you? I can't think of a positive reason for one. Can you?
Yeah. I guess there are some people who their line of work is very geared towards something specifically, and maybe the things that they're into and enjoy doesn't necessarily align with that. So they don't want, if somebody from work sees them or you know, looks them up, that they could see that those things are attached to them. So they may have a separate page. I know somebody who has a separate professional page, but then they have their own personal page. So I see that a lot, but that's the only time I've seen it to where it's like, oh, okay, you know, this makes sense. Or, you know, maybe if you're a high profile individual and there's certain things that you want to comment on or certain things you want to add perspective to, but from your personal page, it just may not make sense. So I could see like celebrities, Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, I don't know, having their own little, you know,
little secret page,
little secret thing. I don't know if they do, but I could see it and I would understand why they would do it, because if it were to come from them, it just wouldn't make any sense.
So do you see that the husband in this scenario was trying to do a good thing? Because some part of me when I first read this was like, I feel like he was trying to do a good thing, as in, I am an upstanding guy, I am somebody's husband, you know, and I don't necessarily, I want to look at these people. I want to look at these women. I want to enjoy this for myself, but I don't necessarily want it to be linked to my real page because of what people might think about that. If people start to see, who may also follow these women, see my name in the likes or in the comments, I don't want that to be disruptive, or I don't want anybody to see me a certain way, because we certainly do see guys that do that in general a certain way. Can you see that he was, like, his intention, he was trying to do a good thing? Or is it just given all like, nah, you were being sneaky?
I mean, is a man hiding that he's cheating trying to do a good thing? I guess he's trying to protect the person's feelings. Doesn't mean the action is necessarily right.
Right. Yeah.
This part of it, this scenario has a lot of layers to it. Like, I mean, first, is it what he did was the issue specifically? Because, like, what if he was watching porn and you found out about it? Does it have the same effect? Because he's not necessarily, I guess, commenting on a girl's pictures, but he's watching other women. What if he had, like, dirty magazines that he was looking at all the time? Like, is it the same? Do you think for her, what do you think? Guess, like, is it just the social media thing and he's commenting on, like, real people that he's seeing? Or is it just, like, he was doing something in pertaining to lusting after other women, and no matter what form it was in, she would still be upset about it?
I think she would still be upset about it.
Okay.
I just think it worsens it because he was engaging.
Got you.
Yes. And I don't think, because she didn't say, so I'm going to assume that this isn't the case. I don't think he was like DMing or having private conversations, but you're making comments, which to me is still talking to a person. You're just talking to them in front of everybody instead of talking to them behind closed doors. You're still talking to them.
Yeah. And who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what he's done, right? Because, like I said, this is layers.
Yeah.
We'll call this the
onion.
That remind me of Shrek. Ogres are like onions. They have layers. We will call this the layer lies, right? And I'm gonna break this down to you folks. Not saying I'm a liar, but I understand how this goes about. Been around a lot of men who, you know, throwing everything around, trying to smoke screen here, boom, 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 whatever. So I'm gonna show you how this layer lie works. So you have the initial lie, and this is what's making me question him. You have the initial lie, right? Which is him having that finster that he never told his person about.
Yep.
But 7 years of doing it makes me think that there are a bunch of other lies.
Yeah.
So the thing is that a lot of times people feel when they get past the first lie that they solve the problem. It's like, no, that was just the first level of defense. You beat the first lie. You got me cold-handed. But then there's still a lot of other lies that I'm still going to keep lying about that would make this worse if you were to figure it out. But you can't prove the other parts of the lie. So I'm still going to stay strong lying on the other parts, even though you proved that the first thing I was talking about wasn't real.
Yeah.
And you just have to be aware of that, because if it was just a initial thing, right? Like one thing happened. Let's say, let me give an example. Let's say I'm dating somebody and I see my ex-girlfriend out, and, I know she still kind of like me a little bit. And she's like, hey, nice to see you. We catch up. She's like, hey, come to this bar that I bartend at. If you come, I'll hook you up, right? And let's say I tell my wife, like, hey, me and my boys are going to this bar. She's like, why are you going there? That's like 45 minutes away from our house. And I'm just like, I'm just going because I heard it's a nice place. Somebody told me. I'm lying, right? I'm going there because my ex-girlfriend's there. I think it would be cool to get the attention, but then, she'll hook me up with the drinks too.
Yeah.
But if she were to catch me at that moment in the lie, that's only one layer to it.
Yeah.
It was quick. I told it in that moment. I lied. She figured it out. Now imagine I was going to that place for a year.
Yeah.
Every Friday. Imagine over that year how many lies I would have had to tell to keep up with that. There was the initial one of the reason I'm going there is for my ex, but I'm sure there probably would have been times where she was like, can I come with you? And I'm like, nah, I don't think it makes sense because X, Y, and Z. Like, I probably would have told a lot of other little lies in there over the year.
Yeah.
So if she found out in that year, after a year, she might get me in the first one, like, I went there to see my ex-girlfriend, but I might still hold true to the other things that I was saying because I don't want to make it seem worse than what it is. If you're talking about 7 years, yeah, according to you, the page had nothing on it, no followers, no pictures. He may have found out you knew, deleted all that stuff. Who knows? But 7 years of doing it, I don't know what that man could have been doing.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem when you decide to be deceitful, right? It could have been exactly what it looks like. An anonymous page that you just used, the equivalent of a dirty mag.
Yep.
You just went to the store, bought a dirty magazine, looked through it, put it with your other mags. And then ever so often you just go back, you look at the dirty mag, get whatever you get out of it, put it back. And you do that and you do that and you do that. It could be something very, very much as simple as that. But when you tell one lie, it starts to break open the idea that you could have told a ton of lies. And I do think while it's not a bad example, it's a little different because going into an app in your phone and looking at photos is very different than actually audibly being like, I'm going to a place, driving to said place, and being at said place. It's a little different because you actually have to say, I'm going to this bar. Where getting on Instagram doesn't require an announcement. He doesn't have to say when he's about to open up the Finsta, hey, I'm about to get on. I'm getting on Instagram, just my page, and I'm going to go do some business. Most people don't announce when they're interacting with social media. Mm-hmm. So he could have been doing that without actually telling a lie to his wife. However, constantly being on that page or frequently being on that page for 7 of the 8 years that you've been married, because I don't know how long you actually been together, but for 7 of the 8 years of your marriage, in my mind, I would be thinking as the wife, was this a supplement? Is this something that you needed to do in order to feel attracted to me? Like, because the timing is just, it would be different if you already had the Finsta. If you had this page before you and I got married or before we started dating, you had always used this as a pseudonym of sorts or as a back page because, like you said, that's one reason some people may want to very much keep their interests or things that they're really into separate from what the world knows them to be, whether that's professionally or otherwise. But you created it after we got married. You created it a year after we got married. Mm-hmm. And the only thing you do on there is look at women and comment on their beauty and their bodies.
As much as I know that's what you do.
As much as I know. But even that is a lot. Even that one thing is a lot. And for me, if I am in a relationship, most of the things that I expect out of you are the same standards I hold myself to.
For sure.
So I don't want my man to be constantly engaging with women's pages that his only reason for doing that is because he's physically attracted to them. It'd be different if like you are over there because of more than that. She could be physically attractive, but she also is a writer and you like her content, or she's a chef and you enjoy the recipes and maybe you like to cook too and that's why you're there, and she also just happens to be attractive. But if the only reason you are there is because she's beautiful, she's a body that you like, and you are not just liking the photo, you're putting heart eyes on it, or you're making comments like damn or yeah, like tsh. I don't want you doing that while you're in a relationship with me, and I would not do that while I was in a relationship with you. I'm not asking you to die or stab your eyes out of your face. You have eyes. You can very much see that she's attractive, but you do not have to actually put a heart on it, and you certainly don't have to comment on it, because if we were physically together walking down the street, would you do that? If we were walking past a woman that you saw and you thought she was attractive, every single time you saw that, would you be like, damn, you look good while I'm right there with you? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't do that. And you wouldn't want me to do that. If while we're sitting somewhere at dinner somewhere and I see a man across the room and I'm like, I'm sorry, baby, 1 second. Excuse me. I like the way that you look. And I just wanted to let you know that. And my eyes are like giving heart out. You would not want me to do that. So I don't think it's okay to do it in the arena of social media either. So like that is why this would be problematic for me, even if he wasn't using a fake page. It's even worse that you're using a fake page because you're really, to me, trying to hide it all. You're just not showcasing the interest. You're actually trying to hide the interactions, to me, in case more comes from that.
Yeah, so that's why I say the lair, right? Mm-hmm. My instinct is the lair, because if it was innocent, you could do it from your personal page.
Yes.
Right? But the fact that you feel like you need to hide it lets me know that you feel like it's something that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
And something that you wouldn't want me to see.
Yeah.
And something that you would be embarrassed if anybody else saw if they knew it was you.
Yep.
So that makes me think there's more to it than what you're initially telling me, sure. Right? And then the thing is, whenever somebody normally gets caught in a lie, they do try to downplay it, right? And make it seem like it wasn't as big as what you made it to seem, or it's not that big of a deal. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just doing X, Y, and Z. So I agree with you. It's like there is no reason why you should want to do that. And I think you have to be careful too when you're doing things like that. Not saying you should lie at all, but understanding the difference when you're lying about something that is somewhat like comparing your person to another person, right? That's a completely different thing. It's like, am I inadequate? Is there something you're not getting from me? Like, it may make your person feel insecure about themselves because it's like, am I not enough, right?
Yeah.
And I love what you said, because I think that's so true, is that when you lie about one thing, you put everything else into question.
Yep.
And even the things that you're straight up about, even the things that you're consistent with, now I feel like if you're capable of lying to me, especially for that length of time, what else could you be lying about?
Yeah.
And I think maybe the question of the day that I think is really tough, and I want to hear your response on it, and our real lovers and everybody who's listening, is, do you forgive someone who apologizes but doesn't admit that what they did was wrong? Because that is one of the hardest things, because your thought is that I want you to know, I want you to say that it was wrong, because then that would make me feel better that you know that you shouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
But if you don't tell me it's wrong, I think that you might do that again because you honestly don't see anything wrong with what you did.
Yeah.
But you're apologizing. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to make you feel that way. Like, I wasn't really doing anything. I didn't mean that. Can you just tell me you did something wrong? Well, I don't think it was necessarily wrong. Like, I'm not doing anything, but I'm sorry that I hurt you. It's like, do you forget? Is that enough for you?
No. And I would have to compartmentalize the forgiveness, because I can only forgive what you apologize for. So if you're apologizing for what you did hurting me, then I can forgive that part. But I can't forgive what you did if I think that it's wrong and you don't think that it's wrong. And I'm very specifically talking about big things like this.
Yeah.
Smaller things, like whatever, like I have and will apologize for something small that made you feel away, but I did not mean to do it, or I don't even think what I did was wrong. That's something that I can handle small. But when it's something big to me like this, where even him saying well, this is my thing, there is no such thing as your thing when it comes to other people in our relationship, whether they are online or not. This is not your thing.
It's me. It's
me and your
her.
thing is you going to play basketball. Your thing is you going to the gym. Your thing is going and reading a book or something like that. But when your thing is talking to other women, even if it's just in the comments, that is now our thing, right? Because I signed up for a monogamous, committed relationship. That's what I signed up for. I did not sign to share you digitally or otherwise with people. So if you don't think that you doing that is wrong, and therefore you aren't apologizing to me for that specific thing, we are going to have a problem, because I need you to see that is wrong. And if you don't see that is wrong, then we probably have a bigger issue. And these are things that, when we talk about having effective communication through the dating process, when people say they don't know what to talk about, these are things to talk about. How do you see social media engagement as a committed person? What things do you think are appropriate and inappropriate on social media? And that is a massive question that covers lots of topics, to what you look like online, what you say online, who you talk to online, what pages you follow online. So yeah, that would be very hard for me. I would appreciate you apologizing for how it made me feel, but we're going to have to take it up a notch to your point, because if you don't think it's wrong, then you might do it again because you don't think it's wrong.
So that's the question, is even outside of this scenario, what do you do if the person's just I'm not going to do it again. I won't do it again, but I don't necessarily think it was wrong.
Then I think that you do know that it's wrong, because if you won't do it again, that's really ultimately what I want, because I can't.
So you're okay with that, even if they're I didn't think it was wrong.
I would have to be, because ultimately the apology is about the change behavior. That's what we say all the time. Like, you can say you're sorry, but I have to see changed behavior. You may not think that looking at other women or even commenting on it digitally is wrong necessarily, but if you are going to change the behavior, you are going to stop doing that. You are never going to create a fake page again, and you're not going to make those comments again, and you're giving me your word. If I'm not going to leave you, then that is ultimately what I want. I want changed behavior. So as long as the behavior changes, I would have to be okay with it. But here's what I will say. The first time the behavior regresses, we're done, because now it's more about you truly not being able to be trusted. I forgave you. I gave you grace because you didn't think it was wrong. So that's why you did it. But now you were told it was wrong. So if you do it again, we have to be done, because you broke the trust.
Do you think violating your partner's personal preference is wrong?
Their personal preference, or their like personal space, like her going into his phone?
Personal preference. So this is the thing, is that the word wrong, like what you did was wrong. That wasn't right. It was wrong. People could think what is wrong and right is subjective, right? Like,
sure.
Whatever. Like, me not putting the towels there isn't necessarily wrong. It's just your personal preference, right? It's something that you expressed that you wanted, but I'm not necessarily wrong. I'm sorry I didn't do it. But am I wrong? Or me saying, hey, I did something wrong, I may not be willing to say that. But in certain situations, you may feel like, if I express to you that this is something I wanted, or this is how I expect things to be, in some relationships, some people may not care, but our relationship. So in the context of our relationship, if you didn't do that thing, then technically you would be wrong for not doing it. Yeah. But I feel like we see this in dating, to where people want closure with words, right? And words mean a lot to people. So you admitting that what you did, even saying what I did was wrong, could make somebody feel better by just saying that. But like I said, again, somebody may not feel like this guy probably doesn't feel like it. He's like, man, it was my own thing. I know I'm not doing nothing.
Sure.
It's whatever. Like, I ain't feel like I did anything, because I didn't do anything. I just, you didn't like that I had this separately. I get it, whatever. I won't do it no more. But I don't necessarily, I feel like I did anything wrong. And I feel like that's probably her main issue, is that he won't admit
think it was wrong.
that it was anything wrong with what he did. So I just wonder, do you think violating personal preferences in a relationship, if they were communicated, is technically wrong?
I just think it's a spectrum. Like, yes, it could be, but it also could not be. It just depends on what we're talking about. Like you said, a personal preference around like how you hang the towel up. Like, because relationships are compromised all day. Like, am I really going to lose sleep or split hairs over the fact that I joke all the time? I talk about my ex who had a really hard time with closing cabinet doors. Like, initially it was a thing. I was like, why can't you do that? Like, I just don't understand. You open the cabinet, you just close the cabinet. But after a while, I'm with this man. So what's it to, does it irritate me when I saw it? Sure. But what's it to me to just close it? You know what I mean? Just as easy as I could tell him he could close it, so can I, to just not make that a thing. But then there are other really fundamental, foundational things that, yes, I need to know that you would see this as wrong. Like this particular, because there's someone that could say, well, I don't really think sleeping with someone else for one night is really that bad of a thing, like whatever. Like, I came home to you. I want to be with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So, I mean, is it really that wrong? It's like, yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge, babe. That's a pretty big one. So there's a spectrum for that. And there are certainly things that I need us to be aligned on, and interacting with other people is one of them.
I agree. And I think that's really one of the main takeaways from this is that there are a lot of things in relationships that you have to compromise on. There's a lot of things in relationships that you have to communicate about, but you have to be very careful when it's involving other people, especially if you're, let's say, in a heterosexual relationship and it involves somebody of the other sex, and you're engaging people of the other sex. You have to be just focus your attention on those interactions and be careful on how you approach things, how you talk about things, how you interact with people, because it is a more sensitive subject, right?
Absolutely.
And it can contribute to so many different things, not only testing the trust in that relationship, but also the individual self-esteem and security of the person, the different people who are in that relationship.
And I would even add, not that I have a ton of experience with the, other types of relationships like homosexual relationships, but I think it's probably even harder in that dynamic where you are dating the same sex, and then you probably also, majority of your friends are the same sex, where the slope is even slippery, even more slippery, where it's like, whoo, like you could potentially see from afar a heterosexual friendship could look a certain way. But when it's the same sex, it's like, yikes, I really don't know. This could be even trickier. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think once you violate trust, it is a very, very, very hard thing to come back from. And it's why people then start asking for shared passwords. And now we need a joint page. I always think about Tina Campbell from Mary Mary.
Erica Campbell?
Her sister Tina.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes. That the other half of Mary Mary.
Gotcha.
Her husband very publicly, like because they had a show at the time, a reality show at the time, and she found out that he was cheating on her, and it was really bad. And of course, for a gospel person, a person in the church, she went nuts. Like she was like tore a car up, was cussing him out. Like it was very, very, very bad. And one of the things that came out of that when they decided to stay together was that he could no longer have an individual Instagram page. So now, and I think still to this day, they have a shared IG account, like Teddy and Tina Campbell. That was birthed out of his infidelity. And I'm sure, he's likely committed to never doing it again because of how much of an impact it had on their marriage. But it's like when you do stuff like that, you have to consider the fact that if your person does find out about this, it could permanently change how you move forward. He could have very well did things on his personal page that he just enjoyed that had nothing to do with cheating.
Yeah.
But now you lost that privilege because you use social media as a vehicle to cheat. And so naturally, one of the ways, if I'm going to stay with you, is that I may want you to lose all access to social media. Your wife or the woman who wrote in, I think is nice enough to just have you delete your Finsta, because I wouldn't be comfortable with you having any Instagram at this point. And I know that that's not how you rebuild trust, is to like constantly do things where you feel like you have to verify everything. And yes, you can cheat outside of social media, but now anytime I see you on there, my mind for a very long time is going to think,
yeah, for sure,
that's what you're using it for, because that's what you were using it for.
And there's a reason why, even like, let's say if we're talking about certain things when it comes to addiction, a lot with drugs, they have things that they call gateway drugs.
Yeah.
Is that typically the things that lead to the more egregious actions seem harmless initially. It's like, oh, it's just looking at this, or oh, I'm just doing this one time, or I'm just, so it starts off harmless and it seems harmless and everybody's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But rarely do people go from zero to completely hardcore in a short span. It normally starts somewhere and then it builds and then it builds and then it builds and then it builds. So even if the initial action, let's say like this, he's like, it's not that big of a deal. It's like me looking at this is like, I don't know where this could possibly lead to, like where this may ultimately go. Like, I have no idea. And I just know that this form of whatever you're doing isn't good.
Yeah.
It isn't good. I love what you said, because shoot, like, yeah, it ain't no way you'd be happy with me doing it.
You would not.
You would not. And like I said, again, sneaky people do sneaky stuff. And what do they say? If it quack like a duck, or walk like a duck, and talk like a duck, it's a duck.
Quack, quack.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's what it's giving.
If you have to have something separate, if you have to hide it, there is a reason that you are hiding it. Period, point blank. I don't got to do more investigating around that. There is a reason that you are not telling me that this thing exists. And me being your wife through, sickness and through health, like, why are you hiding anything from me?
Yes.
Especially something as harmless or as small as something social media related.
Yeah.
If you were hiding like $100,000 or $150,000, that's one thing, because at least that's a big chunk of money that you maybe like, that's one thing. But like something that's small, what would you need to hide something on social media from me for?
Because there may be ulterior motives and intentions. And if you don't want me to think that, then you shouldn't have hit it. And I'm not going to bite my tongue or mince my words about the fact that, yes, I want to be your everything. I want to be the apple of your eye. I'm not saying, again, that you can't find other women attractive, but the idea that you would think it was ever okay to talk to them, to share that with them constantly and nonstop. No, babe, I'm not mature enough for that. That's not a security thing. That is a, you chose me and I need to make sure I feel chosen. Like I feel like the most beautiful girl in the world, even if I am not. When it comes to you and I, that's what I need to feel.
Yeah, and I always like to break it down. It's like you found out, but all right, let's go. Hypothetical. Let's sit down, honey. Let's say you comment on this person's post, hard eyes. What are you getting out of that? Like what is the best case scenario, right? Tell me. They like the comment, they respond, but according to you, there's no pictures on there, so there wouldn't be anything for them to be attracted to anyways. I'm not understanding what, I mean, at least if it was a real fake page and you was actually cheating and getting people's numbers, it would make a little bit more sense.
It would actually make more sense.
It would make more sense to me of why you have that, but just to have a fake page and you just commenting and just looking, you can look from your own page if you want to. And what is the point of commenting if it's a blank page they can't see, so they ain't going to approach the page anyway? So what's the point of commenting?
Why?
That's I just think you're weird.
Yep.
Like now it's what we had talked about before, like leaving and grieving. Now the biggest issue not only is the lie, is that you are not the person that I thought you were. I thought I had this person who was great, loved me, everything about me, but now there's this new element to you that I'm completely unfamiliar with, and now makes me see you differently because I know now you have this like weird,
Just call it what it is. Just giving creepy
thing.
It's giving creepy.
Like I said, if you were actually cheating, not that we're encouraging that would make more sense.
Yep. So why you created a whole fake page to, but
it's basically, nigga, you want to be on the sidewalk. Hey girl.
Yeah.
Damn. Cat calling. Like you just want to be out on the sidewalk.
You just want to be a little creep. And just so you know, we see y'all as creeps. We see men like that as creeps.
Thicker than a potato chip. Just out on the corner. That's essentially what you're doing. Just out on the corner, clocking in just to cat call and yell and do all that stuff.
Yes.
But imagine doing it behind a wall to where they can't see you.
And just so you know, that comes across as embarrassing to your partner. Like if I knew that my man was doing that when I wasn't around, I would be embarrassed by that behavior because that's a single man's game. That's what a guy who was trying to pick up women.
Single men are creepy for doing that.
Agreed. But at least, like, again, if you're single and you're doing it's likely because you're trying to pick up someone. But if you're not trying to pick up, then what's your point?
What are we doing here?
Like some people want to downplay how silly something is by saying like, well, what's the big deal? Well, yeah, that's my question too on the other side. Like you said, what is the point? What are you looking to get from telling someone that they look good when you are in a relationship? What are you looking for? So if it's, what's the big deal about why you say it? What's the big deal about not saying it? I would like to hear your answer for the other side. Like seriously. So if you want to have all the freedoms in the world to be able to do what you want when it comes to that, then don't get in a monogamous committed relationship. It's very simple. Then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And if it's really just in you and you like, I gotta say something. If Kelly Rowland posted a picture and under it you put 3 fire emojis, I wouldn't feel no type of way about that. Right. If you put a cat in the tongue, that's weird, right? But it's like there are ways that you could see something, think it's dope, and still engage with it as your personal self. Yeah, that's appropriate.
Yep.
So you having a separate page, brother, I don't get that.
Yeah, and I hate to do that because I think Fiesta. What did I call her? Finsta Fiasco. Sis, I'm sure you probably picking up that we are like very, very
It's weird.
Yeah, we're very opposed to him doing this, and we're probably not helping your mindset of
We
trying
probably have
to like
not
think that he
helped it.
wasn't doing anything. But it's just honest, and we get where you're at with it, right?
You probably had she probably had all these same
That's
thoughts.
why she's saying she's having a very hard time with it, because I'm sure there are probably people in her life that are like, girl, whatever, it's just Instagram.
But going back to my point, I think if he would have been like, this was wrong
and I shouldn't have been doing
and
it.
I shouldn't have been doing it, it would have made her feel better. But the fact he's like, I'm sorry, but I ain't think I really did anything.
And that's my thing.
That's the unsettling part. Like, that's why I asked you that question. Like, not admitting that you are actually wrong, that bothers people. And it makes it hard to move on because you don't. I think whenever we're arguing or communicating in relationships, people just want to understand that you get it.
Yes.
You understand how I feel and you get how I feel.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is people saying like, oh, yeah, what I did was wrong. I understand where you're coming from now. I shouldn't have done that. I get why I shouldn't have done that too.
Yeah.
And then that would make somebody be like, okay, they get why they shouldn't have done it. They understand they shouldn't have done it. Makes me feel better. But it's going to be hard for her to move past it, I think, when that person is still like, I ain't going to do it again, but I didn't really think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, what a criminal said that, right? To the judge, like, I ain't going to do it again. I don't know what the big deal is, but I ain't going to do it again. The judge would be like, oh, nah, I can't trust that.
Yeah, I mean, but using that exact same scenario, the judge can only punish within the realms of the law, and most people, depending on what the crime is, will get an opportunity to come out and live another day.
Very true.
And hope that they just don't do it again. That's truly what happened. So, I hate to say that that's kind of my advice to you, is that it doesn't sound like you want to divorce him. And
you said he's a great man.
You said he's a really great guy. I think if nothing else, it's revisiting the conversation and maybe even posing the question that Dre posed, which is, do you really see this as wrong, or why don't you see it as wrong? And I would even, if you haven't done this already, ask him if he would think it was wrong if you were doing it. If I was doing this to you, would you see this as wrong? And I would even add the layer of, let's say you weren't the person to catch me. What if one of your friends saw it? What if your dad saw that your wife had a fake Instagram page and was commenting about a bunch of other men other than his son, and came to you and said, son, your wife is already doing this? Like, add that layer of embarrassment, because that's a part of it. It is not just that you saw it. It's the idea that these women were seeing it. And granted, no, his face wasn't there, all of that, but that it was him. That this was your spouse doing that. So I would really pose those additional questions, and hopefully he can really understand why this is wrong, and not just commit to never doing it again, but also just aligning all of himself with who you know him to be. He treats you as a queen. That means he acts and operates like a king, right? A king would not do that. My husband would not do that. The man that I've always known you to be, even before I married you, is not a man who would do that. So I need you to truly understand that what you did was wrong, so that this doesn't happen again, right? Just have those honest conversations, and also truly tell him what additional things it might take for you to be able to get over this. Because it's not just that he deleted it, because he's already done that and you're still not past it. So one, give him room to make up for it, but you have to tell him what it will take for you to truly forgive him and to get past it. And some of it just might be time. But if it's more than that, be honest about that.
Great advice. My lasting advice is, I think you guys will be okay, right?
Yeah.
You definitely have to communicate. I mean, I've dealt with this in my relationship, and I feel like Brie and I right now are the best place we've ever been. I love my wife, but we've dealt with situations to where I felt like she did something wrong and she wouldn't admit that she did it wrong. She would apologize for how she made me feel, but it became a big thing. And this one thing spanned over years.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just keep bringing up, like, that thing bothered me and kept bothering me and kept bothering me. Not on a daily basis, right? Yeah. But there would be things that would trigger it. Like, you would see something, and then it would trigger you to be like, I remember about that time. And I'm still nervous about
excuse me,
you possibly being in the same interaction again, because I don't know how you would react. And I think that's unsettling when you're with somebody and you feel like they're unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
that's a very unsettling feeling. You want to know at least the person that you're with in every situation. You kind of have a gauge on how they would react or what they would do. So I think you guys can get past it, but I think you definitely need to talk to him and really let him know like how much this is bothering you. And you don't think you could really get past it unless you really talk about it and why he doesn't think it's wrong. And I think that like sometimes it works when you try to do like if this were you, but sometimes people pride gets in the way and they will just not admit if it was them that they would care about it.
I wouldn't care because that's what they want you to say.
But I think that, you know, it's also given other examples, which we do a lot on this show outside of just what's happened. It's like, okay, basically we're talking about, do you agree that if we're married, that if we have something that the other partner doesn't know about that we're purposely hiding from them, is that right? If I had a separate bank account that you didn't know about that, how would you feel about that? If I had a separate job that you didn't know about, how would you feel about that? If I had a friend that I would meet with and hang out with of the opposite sex that you knew nothing about, how would you feel about that? Like just hiding things. Can we admit that hiding things from each other just isn't the right thing to do?
Yes.
And I think that, you know, if you try to break it down in that way, then maybe that person could see the light.
Yeah.
And I think it's also getting to a point to where, all right, like Rhonda said, we addressed the issue, how you made me feel, we deleted it. Now we're just talking about something completely different, just even less about this situation in general, but more of how I feel like we need to operate moving forward. And when you have those conversations in relationships, those don't have to be as like, you know, like pressure filled or rigid. It's just more like we're chilling, having a talk, like, because the moment you get rigid, the person gets defensive because they feel like you're attacking them, and then they won't get what you're trying to say. So you got to get it to a point to where you're having that conversation kind of separate from that initial thing where the Finsta and all that stuff like that. You're just having a conversation about, you know, not hiding things and what makes you feel comfortable. And I think if you have that in a more relaxed environment, maybe over dinner or like something like that, then you could get a more honest response. Because that's the thing too, is that we don't always, like Rhonda said, the person saying, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, could mean that they feel like what they did was wrong, but they may not always honestly like say that. You know, some people have trouble like admitting things and being like, I did something wrong. That was my fault. Right. And it takes certain environments for them to feel comfortable to actually admit like that was on me. So you just got to build that environment for them to feel okay with that. But also, we always say actions speak louder than words. If that person is showing up for you every single day, being a great person, being a great man, being a great husband, we don't let one mistake define who somebody is, right? We all mess up. Everybody does things that they probably aren't supposed to do. If you analyze anybody's life, there'll be things that we're all not proud of. So yeah, I think you guys just need to communicate. As we always say, that's a lot of our advice. Just communicate. And I feel like you guys will be able to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Well, hopefully this helps.
Well, thank you for writing that. We appreciate it. And if you have a real love scenario, please write into us. You know where to find us, relationshiprestore.com. Click the contact button and you can not only write into the show with your scenario, but you can also leave a real lover dedication. If you have an amazing person in your life that you want to shout out, we want to know about it. And of course, gang, don't forget to do all the things. Follow us on everything, social media, leave a review, leave comments. We read all of them and we love them. And we'll catch you next week. I'm at Ronnie Cakes.
At Dre Smith.
Yes, and at Relationship Restored.
Peace.
Bye.